And we are live. I'm going to go ahead and call to order the regular city council meeting for November 18th, 2024. Councilmember Gardner will be leading us in invocation and pledge of allegiance.
Let's pray. Our Heavenly Father, thank you so much, Lord, for this day, and we're thankful for the rain that we've received this evening, God, and we're just so grateful to enjoy this time of the year when the leaves are falling and changing colors, God, and we just love being able to live in the city, and you've given us such a great place to take care of, Father, and we just ask that we can be good stewards of the city and the business that's before us tonight, Lord. We ask for wisdom in all that we do and all the matters that we have to consider, God. Each week things can be different and have different things to consider, and we just ask for wisdom in all that we do, that we may understand each issue, and that we'll make a decision that's best for the city of Maumelle, Lord. Father, thank you for all those that serve us each and every day and keep us safe in this community, and we just ask your blessings upon this evening and upon this week, that we can be of service to someone, Lord. In your Son's name we pray. Amen.
Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, thank you, sir. Next item of business is special guests and announcements, and we have Tad Bohannon with Central Arkansas Water. Tad, the floor is yours.
Well, thank you very much. I'm very glad to be here. It's been a while since I've been with you all, so it's good to be back. I got a few things to talk about, so we'll also answer any questions you have, but I just want to kind of give you an update on where we are as a utility, where we are on the work that we're doing in Maumelle, and some things we're proud of, I guess, but we'll just see how it goes from there. But one thing we've been working on is a 2050 strategic plan. Some people do 3-year or 5-year strategic plans, but water is a long-term deal, and I call a 3-year or 5-year plan a work plan. And so we've been working on a 2050 strategic plan, and this is kind of what's come out of it, what you see up on the screen now as far as our purpose, mission, and vision. And we really do try to live by that every day, and that, our job is to protect public health. People forget about that sometimes, that they think what's public water for, but it's really about the need for public water came about due to typhoid and other things. So, our real job is protecting public health. We do have 5 areas where we focus, and we call them big drops. Thought that was appropriate for a water utility. And you can kind of see those things, but it really boils down to great people to work there, system reliability. We want to be environmentally friendly, got to be financially viable, and we want community support. We want people to understand what we're doing and how we do it. This is our poster child. This is our high-tech leak detection device. If you haven't heard about Vessel before, she was the nation's first leak detection dog, and yes, she is the quickest way to find a leak on a water system that there is. She's been recognized on the House floor. She's got magazine covers that we don't have, and we use it. We have so much groundwater that people say, I got a leak, or you've got water treatment, and she can hop out of her truck, go boom. It's either groundwater or it's our water. And if it's groundwater, she hops back in the truck. And if it's our water, she sits and barks. So she is really quick at what she does, and she's really good. Just so you all remember, Central Arkansas Water serves everywhere that's in blue on this map. Of course, it's Little Rock, North Little Rock, Sherwood, Maumelle, Perrin to the west. And so that's our service. And then everything that's green is a wholesale customer. So we provide water to most of Central Arkansas area. It's about 500,000 people that drink Central Arkansas water every day. Just so you know a little bit about us as far as numbers and stuff, and I'll go quick. The big one to remember there is we have about 2,700 miles of pipe, serve about 500,000 people, and it's a 721 square mile service area, which is the largest service area of any water utility in the state. So we put in some windshield time. Do want to do a little bit of a reminder of how we got here and what we're doing. And that is, way back in 2015, Maumelle Water, which was the predecessor of Providing Water, said that they were going to have to increase rates by about $25. and per month. And we said, hey, let us look at it. And so the red line is kind of where Maumelle was looking that they were gonna go, and the blue line is where CAW was looking that it was gonna go. And so we had community meetings, we met with the city council at the time, we had meetings at the community center, we had meetings at churches, we had meetings a lot of places explaining this. And this is kind of how we got here. And so so when people forget, when we initially started talking about it, there would be an initial bump, then that would go down after a few years, and then it would go out about another 8 years, and then it would go down again, and there's a surcharge that continues on out. And that was to pay for improvements to be made to this system, the longest one being, we have about an $8.5 million pipeline in the ground that connected Central Arkansas Water's existing service area to Maumelle. We rehabilitated tanks, and I've got some more about that coming up. But here's what you see what's happened, and part of this has already taken place. We had a short-term debt, and the reason, you don't want me to cover this, I'm fine to go on, but that's the most questions we get is about how long is the surcharge gonna last. So we started out with 3 surcharges. We had a short-term, an intermediate, and a long-term. The short-term has already ended. It lasted for 2 years. We started operating Maumelle in March of 2016, and the short-term surcharge went away January of 2018. Then we had an intermediate debt that covered some longer-term things, and it's scheduled to end in March of 2016, 10 years, just like it was originally set up. And it covered a number of things, which I'll get into a little bit more about. The big one still outstanding is the water solids that are in the wastewater treatment facility. For years and years and years, as solids built up at the water treatment plant, they had just been taken over to the wastewater site, and so they're stacked up there. We are trying to work with North Little Rock, who provides the wastewater services, about do we really need to clean out that lagoon? Is there other ways those solids could be used on site? Because then we don't have to have a permit to dispose of them, to remove some of that cost. We continue to work on that, but that's kind of the last big project of the intermediate consolidation. And then the long term paid for much bigger, longer improvements that were gonna last for over 30 years. So they were financed through a bond issue. Initially, it was scheduled to end in 2036. Right now, it's gonna end at least by 2032. And as the system grows and as we collect the monthly surcharges, it may pay off before then. We don't know, but just know it's already shortened from the initial 30 years down to 2032. I don't want to make any promises, but I anticipate when we collect enough money to pay off the last bond, we'll stop collecting it. It's that simple. And so that's what that last surcharge that will stay on there, that will be there for a while. After that, it's just CAW rates. I mean, you're playing, it's just the CAW rates, and the improvements that are not included in all this are just part of the CAW rates. So that's where we are on that. Just so give you an idea of some of the initial work that was really done early on, we like maps. Well, our engineers and our crews like maps. They want to know where everything is. So one of the first things was done was GPS locating everything. And so they went around and found every valve, every hydrant, every meter box in the system and GPSed them. So it doesn't matter if there's snow on the ground, it doesn't matter what's coming, they can get to them. Now, we have noticed, and it'll show up, that we have some shortages in the number of valves. So one of the things we continually work on is cutting in more valves. And you say, what's that for? Because whenever there's a break and we can't work it hot, we like to work them hot. And by working hot, I mean they leave the water on and the water's spraying everywhere. Think about whenever you're trying to do anything with water spraying everywhere, but they don't have to then shut it off for the customers. But whenever they have to cut it off, everybody between whatever two of the closest valves are gets their water turned off. And if the more valves we have in the system, the less people that will be cut off. So we're continually looking to cut in more valves. The other thing that's really important, I think, that we look at on this one is, you know, we knew service lines were going to be an issue. Um, that picture of that one that's there is a service line, and every one of those white pieces is a clamp. So that means that service line had leaked and been clamped and leaked and been clamped and leaked and clamped. And that's not the way CAW likes to do business. If it leaks, we repair it. We fix it. We tear it out if it's a service line. We put in copper instead of plastic. It lasts longer. So the guys have been working really hard to replace service lines in the area. And we know that there's some that's leaked. There's a big number up there, 186 are still pending. That is lines that we've identified. We know they're leaking. They're all put on a priority list. But if you look at the little print down there, you'll see that in Maumelle, we've already replaced over 1,700 lines. And to give you an idea, that means we've replaced 209 service lines per 1,000 customers. That means we've replaced 1 in 5 already, and we still have this to go. And we're working on it. We've hired extra crews to work on it. We hired an outside contractor to help us get caught up at one point. But compare that to the rest of the system. Instead of 209 per 1,000 customers, the rest of the system, we replace about 31 lines per 1,000 customers in that same period of time. So we've got a lot of work to do on service lines, and we're doing it. And we just ask people and the city council and our customers to be patient. And I know if the line's leaking out in front of their area, they're going, I got a leak. And sometimes, and the guys fuss at me every time, I say, just go clamp it. And we'll come back and they're like, do the same work twice. And I said, we don't have time to get to it now. Let's just put a clamp on it. But we're working on it and know that we're aware of what's going on. There's just a lot of work to be done there, okay? The other part is main breaks. Maumelle's main breaks compared to the rest of the systems are about the same. It's not that big a differential. The differential is PVC pipe. If you have a piece of ductile iron that breaks or whatever, it usually breaks in the circumference, and you can put a new union in there, or you can put a big clamp on it. PVC doesn't break that way. So when PVC breaks, we're tearing up a whole section, replacing a whole section of pipe to be able to put it back in there. It's just the way the system was built, but it's okay. We'll get it done, we'll fix it, but just know that we're working on repairing the pipes as quickly as we can. Main breaks always take priority over a service line leak. If there's a crew out there working on a service line leak and a main break happens, they're buttoning it up as quick as they can, and they're getting to a main break, because main breaks are blocking traffic, could be shutting down facilities. We don't like that. But just know that we're working on those if you have any questions about that. This is part of just a picture of what we encountered. You think, well, we go in and we dig up and we're just going to find a nice little meter in there in a box and what have you. And this is what we get. So as you see there in this hole, there's 3 meters, a bunch of other pipe going every different direction. When we go in and we actually do the service line replacements, we clean all this up. We clean it up and leave it in a condition so that it's easier to work on. We put in what's a setter, and you say, what's a setter? Right now, a lot of the meters are connected directly to a service line. And there's no way to turn off the water except to go back to the curb stop at the line. But once you put in a setter, there's another valve there. So if something happens, So if something happens, you can just turn off the water easily right there. But we're cleaning that up as we replace lines. And so you see the work that's still to come. Do want to do a little bragging before you all start peppering me with questions. You know, our guys are really good. This is a contest that they have nationally. We won the Southwest section. They rebuild a water hydrant in 1 minute and 28 seconds. So they know what they're doing. And I also want to talk about a big project that we got coming up. You see the picture of the Wilson treatment plant. That's our largest treatment plant. It provides most of the water, if not all the water, on any given day that comes to Maumelle. It's right there on 430 as you go across the river and go up the hill. You look to your right, there's a big old dome. That's that big dome you see there on the right side of that picture. So We're about to do about $200 million of work over the next 5 years on that plant. That plant was originally built in the 1950s, and it's time to do some work. And so we will be doing work to upgrade that plant as we go. So I'm real proud of the yellow in there, that we've been recognized as the #2 trusted utility for customers. People like our water, they trust our water, and we really appreciate it, despite the millions of dollars that Nestle and Coca-Cola and Pepsi spend trying to convince people not to drink tap water. Our customers know that our tap water is good. As I'm looking around at all the plastic bottles there behind the thing. There you go. Way to go, Mayor. Thank you very much. So we're working on a 2050 strategic plan. Just like I said, things are long-term. We're also working on a 2100 asset replacement strategy. That's a 75-year asset replacement strategy. The reason why? A lot of our assets are 75-year or longer assets. So how do we plan for what's coming in the future? How do we levelize things so there's not rate shock in the future as we get to things that are replacing? How do we plan? How do we make our public aware of this is what's coming? If y'all haven't paid a lot to, we have a 10-year rate plan. It was passed in 2023 and it started being put in place. So customers know what's coming. People can look at the rate plan, they know what to expect. At first people said, you all are crazy to have a 10-year rate plan. I said, well, it's all about communication and telling people what's coming. And so there's actually now people going, maybe that wasn't such a bad idea. Maybe we need to look at it, but that's out there. And then there will be a rate study that goes with it, but we know there are so many variables. We're not saying we're gonna fix rates next year for the next through 2100. There are way too many variables, but it's just to give us an idea of, we have this asset replacement strategy, what's it gonna take to be able to do those things. So we are here in Maumelle. If you don't know, we have the Academy at Maumelle High School for construction. We're really proud of it. We really like it. Our crews come over and work with the kids on different things. In this pictures, they're rebuilding meters. I thought I'd put in some more, but I guess I didn't. They went over PPE, protection equipment. The kids are all dressed up in all the protection equipment to know how to do the job safely. But it's a good program, and we appreciate it. And the idea is that kids come through that program, they learn about construction, but also in particular about the water industry, and hopefully we're developing a workforce of the future for jobs here at home. You know, that kids who wanna go straight into work can find a job, and we hope they'll look at least partially in the water industry. It's a great career. We did do Career Expo for about 3,000 ninth graders. We have a session coming up actually with the 8th graders in Maumelle to talk to them about the academy at Maumelle High School that they can join into. It's a 4-year program within the high school. The idea being that when they come out of that program at the end of the high school, they're able to sit for and take the licensing requirements that they have to have, and they'll be prepared to be able to do that. And with that, I am done, unless I can brag some more, but I'll stop now for any questions.
Tad, really quick, I want to just say what a pleasure it has been to work with CAW. Specifically, we know that there's fiber optic being installed all across the nation, and Maumelle is no different. And from time to time, water gets hit, as do all the utilities. And I know that there are times where I have spoke to a resident and they have been affected by water for an issue that you guys didn't cause. And y'all have always been top notch in the way that you respond quickly and deal with the residents that have been affected by those. And we don't see that from a lot of utilities, and it's one thing that sets y'all apart, I think, in the way we've been working with you. And then, of course, we appreciate you showed that picture of the line. The difference between something that's been band-aided and band-aided and band-aided versus coming in and doing the job right the first time and really knocking it out. And so I think folks have said we pay a little bit with those surcharges and stuff, but as far as service and water quality, we often hear overwhelmingly good things. No entity has 100% happiness.
No.
Satisfaction, but y'all get as close to it as we see with any of the other utilities that are out here.
Well, thank you very much. That's what we try to do, and we know we're not perfect, but we use those as learning opportunities.
Councilmember Mosley?
Yeah, I wanted to ask on the surcharges, you said the second one, and I missed or didn't understand when that was gonna expire.
It expires on March 1st of 2026.
26, okay.
It's 10 years from when the consolidation occurred of March 1 of 2016.
All right. And, that service line that you showed with all the little patches on it, that's a flexible line, is that correct? For some reason, I was thinking it'd be a metal line coming in there, but it's not.
When it was the latest and greatest thing when a lot of the houses in Maumelle were being built, and as sometimes the old and tried and true is better than the latest and greatest. How's that?
Okay.
I'm not saying that, I mean, it was, people thought they were, builders and what have you, thought they were doing the right thing at the time, but it
Yeah.
has not performed as anticipated.
Is it the same size as what you have going, that we have going from the meter to our house?
Yes.
Is that exact same size?
Well, that depends on how many, I'll take that back. If there's 4 meters on the other side and it's a line, we run a 2-inch line. And that would be house meter sprinkler, we
Okay.
run a 2-inch line. If we run less than that going through, it's usually a 1-inch line, and homeowners can have anywhere from a 5/8 to a 1-inch line, but it does not, we don't work on the other side of the meter.
Okay, okay.
We tried and the plumbers kicked us out. Said, no going past the meter.
Talk a little bit about the $200 million of upgrades over the next 5 years and how that might affect our rates, and whether it's increasing your capacity to serve, or is it just upgrading what you've got?
It's both. It's doing some repair work that needs to be done. It's changing a little bit of the treatment process to a more modern, more effective. Not the latest and great thing. We let somebody else be on the bleeding edge of leading technology in the treatment plants, but now that it's been proven, we're upgrading some of the processes so that they'll be more effective and less costly. The $200 million is built into the 10-year rate resolution that we passed 2023, so rates are over that time period going up, but we've already accounted for that in what we've already been doing and
Okay.
talking about.
Okay, not a new one coming down the pike.
Not a new one coming down the pike.
Okay. How much extra capacity would you have, and what would you do with it? Are you looking to have more retail customers or wholesale?
The extra capacity comes in handy in 2 different places. One is that we have 2 treatment plants. And so one of the excess capacity allows us to be able to shift between the treatment plants and do more work there. The other is you start thinking about building a new treatment plant when your average daily consumption, when your max day consumption reaches about 80% of your treatment capacity because of how long it takes to build these things.
Okay.
So what this does is it really extends when we'll have to think about building a 3rd treatment plant. Our water supply that we have, we know is good through 2080 and probably gets us to 2100 with the existing water supply we have. What this extra capacity does is push us out on the treatment plant side to get us there also. It lines things up a little bit.
Okay. Are you guys looking to have more customers at any point, or are you pretty much frozen now?
No, we're not frozen. I would never say frozen. It's a matter of do people want to join? I mean, the more meters brings efficiency. I mean, it is just like anything else. I mean, more meters bring efficiency, and so if there are neighboring systems that want to take advantage of CAW the way Maumelle decided to say, hey, we want to be part of CAW, then that's certainly a discussion that can be had. And the reasons I say that is, and I don't want to get overcomplicated, but the systems that are around us are relatively small compared to the size of CAW. So adding another system does not fundamentally change the math as far as, do we have enough water? Do we have enough treatment capacity in the water treatment plants? What it does is it takes that $200 million and adds another, let's say, 10,000 meters to the denominator. So when you divide that $200 billion that has to be paid, and you add another 10,000 meters to the denominator, it just reduces the cost for everybody. So there are advantages, but I don't know that there's anything coming down the pipe.
All right, thank you. You do a good job of explaining things. That's all I've got. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Were there any additional questions, comments, concerns? Tad, thank you very much.
Can
for
I have
coming
3 more minutes?
You can have
All right.
2.5.
I do got a couple I want to talk about. PFAS and lead. It's in the national news. It's on Channel 7. Everybody's talking about it. PFAS is not a problem for us, okay? There is nothing upstream from our watershed that fills our lakes, all right? We've been testing for PFAS for years. We have never found it in our system, all right? I used to say we don't have it. Now I say it's non-detectable if we do have it, because they say it may even be in the rain. But what PFAS is all those plastic bottles breaking down into microplastics that can't break down any further, and so they just stay around forever. And they're so small that then even when you go through the water cycle, they stay within the water and they come back down in the rain. But just know it is not an issue for us. So when you hear about all these cities screaming about PFAS, it's not a problem. The other is lead. We are not aware of lead in our system. After Flint happened, we potholed a ton of lines. We found a few. We already replaced them. We replaced them in a procedure that the EPA mostly adopted to say this is what you need to do nationally. Do what CAW is doing. Few people may get letters about either they have unknown or galvanized requiring replacement. We don't think this is going to be a big issue in Maumelle just because of the age of the community. But if you have your customers asking you about lead, or somebody got a letter because their house was built before 1989 and we don't know what the lead service line, we don't know what the service line is, the odds of it being lead, practicality, builders and communities were not using it at the time Maumelle was built because it's too expensive. They were finding other solutions for service lines. So just know that we do not have the hundreds of thousands of or tens of thousands of lead lines that other communities have. In fact, we're not aware of any. But EPA made us send out a whole bunch of letters. We've sent them. We'll be following up with folks, but just, it is not a concern for us, all right? Can't overstress it. You may have heard a couple other things. We are in Perla. Perla is not connected to our system. We are not looking for them to become part of our system, but they had brown water and a wastewater system that had not moved any water in 4 years. Think about having sewage flow across your front yard for 4 years. Asked one homeowner about it, and they said, well, it only gets wet when we wash clothes or take long showers. I mean, that's what was corrosive. We're appointed a receiver by the court. City of Wrightsville, ADQ asked us to step in and help with them because their system, we've been selling water since down there, since 1969, but they've asked us to help on the wastewater. We're good at what we do. What can we say? The other thing is we have been asked to, we're not flying anybody to Ukraine, but all their water systems are down, and so they've asked us to provide technical assistance via Zoom calls and stuff. I mean, people recognize that, not me, I'm a lawyer. The people that do the CAW stuff, they're really good at it. They've been recognized for it, and they're asking them to participate in technical calls to take part of that. We do have solar. We were one of the first non-electric companies to have a large solar system in the state. It cuts our electric bills by about 20%, which is an advantage to all the ratepayers. And this is kind of our claim to fame chart here. I mean, this just shows after time. And the last one, the big one, is in 2022, we were recognized as one of the leading utilities in the world. Little bitty CAW, serving 500,000 people, was recognized as one of the best water utilities in the world. And I'm really proud of that. And I hope our residents are. Other than that, happy Thanksgiving. And if you have any more questions, he's sitting right here. This is Doug Shackelford. He's our public affairs person. His name and his number are up there. You should have it anyway. I know the mayor has it, right? But if you have any more questions, please don't hesitate to reach out to Doug or me. I mean, you can call me, but he's usually easier to get hold of. And we thank you all very much for everything you all do for the city of Maumelle, and we're really glad to be a part of it.
Thank you, sir.
I kept
Thank
it
you for
under
coming
2.5.
out. That was close enough.
Close enough, okay.
All right, the next order of business is the approval of the minutes from November 4th. Y'all received a copy of that in your packet. I'd entertain a motion to adopt the minutes.
So moved.
Got a motion and a second. Is there any discussion on that motion? Seeing none, all in favor, please signify by saying yes.
Yes.
All opposed, no. Motion carried. I don't have any public comment cards, so we'll move on to the financials. Beatrice, come on down, please.
Good evening, Tina. We are going to review the financials as of October 2024.
It's a slight delay.
It says, it's okay.
There you go.
Okay. I gave you some comments in writing just to have a better communication. So in the page 1, we have the revenue. If you see, most of the expected revenue from tax collections are in line with budget. We still have 2 months to go, and the December accrual, because remember that we collect the revenue until January. So with this said, we are going to have the revenue aligned with the budget. In talking about property taxes, I put here that we may have a big collection of property taxes. We already have it. So it happened on Monday. So, well, Friday, and today we got the money. So we are okay. So, and there are other kind of revenues that help to get the 2024. As you know, the Planning and Permits Department that help us this year, the investment earnings, and the miscellaneous revenue. So we don't see any problem with the revenue for 2024. And of course, that is higher than 2023. In the expenditures, we have some expenditures that look much higher than 2023, but it's nothing new. The police and fire is because we have the salary and benefit increases. In the senior service department, we have an additional expenditures like the professional study for the indoor swimming pool. We have some repairs for the building. We have 3 services in grounds maintenance, utilities increases, and instructor classes like stretch training. In the service, city services line, that is the biggest variance against 2023, we have several issues. The audit of 2022 that we pay in 2024. We are paying the audit 2023. We have the computer maintenance for the 365 and the cloud fee increase. We have the insurance expenditures for property and auto, and because they were higher in 2024. We also had in this line the operating transfer approving budget, and they were processed. There was a transfer from the grant fund to capital improvement for 3.2 million this is for the training facility, and plus regular transfer to fund bonds as follow. Like the engine for the tower truck, I was telling you the training facility is the biggest one. We have a transfer for the training grant, and we are paying now monthly basis the bond fund. This is a regular payment we do. If you see in the we also have in the Parks Department, we have some variances. We have the payment for $740,000 for the pickleball complex that was finalized this year. We have the software conversion for the police department. We bought some police vehicles. We have the change or implementation of the camera systems and door access for the police department and for the community center. These are the biggest variances in the page number 1. In the page number 2, we have the general fund balance. As of October 2024, you can see that the total balance of the fund is 9.4 million. The requirement for the fund is 4.7 million. That is the 20% of the revised budget operational expenses. So we are above requirement for 4.6 million still. From the 4.6 million, we have open purchase orders as of October 2024. And if you notice here, we put a line for you here that it says designated fund balance for 464,000. And these are expenditures that are committed already, and we need to keep it on mind. So the fund balance can be used just for 4.2 million because we have the other 400,000 committed. If you go to page 3, we have the street fund. In here, we are aligned with the budget. In the property tax, we have also already collected a property tax higher in November. And if you notice here a big variance between the City Street Aid program and the state turnback, it's just because they are compensated. The city changed how they give us the revenue. In the expenditure line, we remain under budget due to the staffing vacancies through the year, and also we have 3 positions that continue vacant. In here, we have an operating transfer for the Club Manor Corridor project for $1.2 million. This is the big variance that you see here. In the line that says capital expenditures, we have path improvements, street overlays, stripping. We also bought a ramp truck, and we have other street equipment for $47,000. In the bottom, you can see the street fund balance. Our street fund balance is 4.2 million. And for the 4.2 million, we have open purchases orders as of October for $900,000. So those are expenditures that we have committed already. So they are shown here in the line that says designated fund balance. So the fund balance that we can use in this fund is just 3.2 million. So if you go to the next page, this is our sanitation fund. And, well, our expenditures continue being higher than the revenues in 2024. This will not change until we increase the rate that you already approved, but it's until next year. So this year, I wanted to explain you a little bit more about that because I think that you have been asking about the fund balance. So as of October 2024, we have a fund balance for 1 million. But this 1 million is including this designated fund balance for 372,000, that these are committed purchases for 2 trucks. Also, the cash balance in this fund is very limited because this sanitation enterprise has invested almost $800,000 in net equipment. And it is also committed to finalize paying the 2 trucks in the future years. So, because this situation, I really wanted to explain you, because you have a resolution in your package that I suggested to the mayor, in order we are not tight and we can continue paying the regular expenses the remaining of this year, we are asking and starting a loan from the general fund of $100,000 that we will repay with regular interest next year when we start collecting the new revenue. So it is just to be in a safe place, and we continue paying regular expenses with a formal loan from general balance to the sanitation fund. It is really tight, the cash. So in the other two funds, and this is a big difference that I think I need to be very clear with you, in the general fund and in the street fund, your fund balance usually means cash. In the sanitation fund, it doesn't, because it's an enterprise. So we recognize fixed assets. Exactly. So not everything will equal to a cash. So that's why I wanted to explain you that we are a little limited in the cash fund. Then in the next page, you have the police and fire fund. And as always, this is just for informative purposes, because we have been collecting the 0.5 on regular basis for sales tax. In December, we will accrue the revenues that they are collected in January, and this will put the budget online. Revenues and expenses has to be equal at the end of each year. That was one of your questions. So we don't have fund balance here. This is just an informative. Some financial updates. We continue working on the budget 2025. You have the last version in your desk, is version 3. So, and if you approve that version, that will be delivered for you in the December 2nd. But then the auditors also gave us the draft for the 2023. We also received a final actuary study that they asked us regarding health. So they are in the final review. In order is delivered and presented to you in this 2024. And we continue with the fixed asset module implementation to have better controls. And that's all what I have for today.
Thank you. Are there any questions or comments? Councilmember Mosley?
Yeah, so the auditors will be presenting the audited financial statements in the first or second meeting of December?
Yes.
I don't think it'll be the first, because we haven't received the final draft back. Once we get the final draft, we give it to the council, try and give you all 2 weeks, normally, but we've done it with 10 days notice, hand deliver the CAFR to you. So I don't think the likelihood of it being presented to us, like the presentation at the first meeting in December, is fairly low, I think.
Okay. Let me ask about this, the reason for this 100,000 here. I thought we were in pretty good shape. I didn't understand that we had to purchase any more trucks. I thought we had already bought everything.
No, if you remember, even we had in the budget the $655,000, and you approved it that because it was allocated since the beginning of the year. We were just holding on the buying of the trucks. We are still holding. We just gave an advance because we don't have cash. So we have. That's why I was recommending to increase the fee.
So if I can I explain it from my perspective? It might be a little bit easier.
Sure.
The financial reports that we get tells us what the fund balance is. For the general fund, when we see that fund balance, it is almost 100% cash, CDs, very liquid. It's basically cash. For the street fund, it's the same exact way. If the fund balance says $7 million, that means we have $7 million to spend. What I didn't realize is I knew that we were on an enterprise fund for sanitation, but I did not know that the reporting of the fund balance includes fixed assets. And so, in fact, a month or two ago, I said we had this amount of money in the bank, and that was not the amount of money. That was the fund balance that includes the fixed assets, which are not spendable, right? We can't spend sanitation trucks. So what I was talking to Beatrice, and I think we used to report this different, that had the fund balance, how much was committed, how much was designated, you know, what the actual spendable balance of that fund was in the reports. Somewhere along the way, when we started switching up the reporting, we stopped reporting that information, and so going forward, like Beatrice was talking about, we're gonna do a better job making sure we're reporting what the fund balance is and breaking that out into things like the fixed assets,
And
cash, like how much money we actually have. So the trucks that we're talking about are the same trucks that were authorized in the budget last year that we've paid half of the money down. We're not expected to get those trucks in, well, certainly not 24 and probably not in 25. We paid half of that money down already for those vehicles. So we're not adding 2 new vehicles, in case that was, I'm not sure if I made that a little bit easier or more difficult.
That was better. I appreciate it. How much of that 1,066,000, how much of that is cash?
Today, we don't have, we have $20,000.
We're down to $20,000.
Yes, because we gave the advance, 750,000 or almost 800,000 is the fixed assets. And we gave the advance for 300,000, so the cash is very, very limited. What we do now is collect revenue, pay expenses. Collect revenue, pay expenses. We are in that way until we start collecting more revenue, and the revenue will cover our expenses.
Okay, so this $100,000 will basically tide us over here as we start collecting more revenue, then we'll start saving cash, and we'll have cash on hand to finish paying for these sanitation trucks. Is that the plan?
Yes, and I don't think we're going to need the 100,000, but that would be what we're thinking would be the max that we could envision needing with the amount of time remaining in the year. So I don't think it'll be 100,000, but Beatrice, rather than come back at the next meeting and nickel and dime it, we just want to do one. I also wanted to correct one thing. We were originally looking at how this is done, looking through legislative audit and accounting, and the city attorney found how Fayetteville loans money from funds. At one point in time, we thought we had to loan that money with interest from one fund to the other. That does not appear to be the case, so we're not loaning with interest from the general fund over to the sanitation fund. Which Beatrice mentioned that we'd be doing that in the resolution, but we're not, because we don't need to.
Okay.
And based on Beatrice's face, we'll double check the accuracy of that, but.
Yes, just to formalize the loan.
Yeah, this is kind of a surprise.
Yes,
I was understood we kind of had 2 or 3 years before we ran out of cash, and suddenly we are out of cash, so, all right. Thank you.
Councilmember Williams?
Oh, you answered my question about the interest, but my ears perked up when you said that. But I also want to thank you, Beatrice, for this.
You're
I appreciate
welcome.
that. It's very, very helpful. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Councilmember Gardner?
Thank you, Mayor. So I asked Ms. Timmons to go back to this screen. Mayor, you mentioned something that I wanted to clarify for myself, and I think this would be good for all of us. I want to make sure I'm understanding the sanitation fund balance correctly. So you had said, or Ms. Beatrice, you may have said, when I look at the designated fund balance, and it shows 371, that is what is designated to be spent out of the fund
Yes,
balance.
we are
Okay.
already committed.
Gotcha. And then below that, where it shows fund balance of 694,000.
Yes.
That is what includes fixed assets?
The total full balance, 371 plus the 694, yes, it
Okay,
includes the
so
fixed
our-
assets.
I guess In my
Yes.
mind, I'm thinking of the trucks that we have running around, whatever physical equipment that we have, whatever assets, it totals, I figured it'd be a higher total,
Yeah,
frankly.
yeah,
I guess trash
that's
trucks
why
aren't worth much after a few years.
it's because the 300,000, in other words, is the fixed assets, right? The 371, is the commitment that we have for the trucks.
Right, but I'm referring to the.
It has to do with the depreciation.
Right, no,
level,
exactly.
Which is, so, our- I, I think if we were to sell all of the equipment that we had from sanitation, which we're not discussing doing, I think that's above what the fixed asset amount.
Well, just to give you some numbers, we have like a 2.8 million on equipment and 250,000 the building vehicles, and we have 2.3 million of accumulated depreciation. So it's the 750 more or less that the 600 is.
Okay,
Is
yeah,
your
so I
number.
just, that's what I was thinking. I just wanted to clarify I just wanted to verbalize that.
Yes.
That the fund balance includes whatever little cash we have.
Yes.
And the actual value of the equipment that we have
Yes.
in sanitation. Okay. Well, I do
The
appreciate.
the depreciated value.
That's what I meant, yeah, the depreciated value. I appreciate that being broken out. And did I understand that at some point we'll have another line item added to this showing actual cash? Did I hear that?
Yeah, so we're
Yes.
going to.
Okay.
Beatrice has been working hard to get these reports so
Yes.
that they're not auto-generated, but that
Yeah.
it
Right.
populates without having.
Yes,
to-
actually, I was able to generate one report directly from OpenGov. But if I give this to you, you are going to ask me a lot of questions because it's accounting. So the assets includes the small amount of cash, a cash advance, the assets and minus depreciation. So this is assets.
Okay.
And then in the other side, that says liabilities plus fund balance includes some liabilities that we even have some little liabilities, and the fund balance. So it is, I'm working on this. For 2025, I hope to have this report, but in a way that you can read easily, because it's very difficult to read.
Sure. Well, I think we were all looking at the fund balance and thinking, okay, that's what we have.
It's
in cash.
cash.
And
I
we're seeing
know.
that number go down little by little.
I
I'm
know.
thinking, okay, we have time until the rate adjustment takes effect.
I know, and I read a report and I say, Mayor, I may
Okay.
want to explain the city council what this means, because we run out of cash,
Very
right?
good. Thank you, ma'am.
You're welcome.
Are there any other questions for Beatrice on the financial statement? If not, I'd entertain a motion to accept the financials. I've got a motion. Do I hear a second? Motion and a second. Any discussion on that motion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying yes.
Yes.
All opposed, no. Motion passes. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next order of business is procedural motion. At this time, I'd entertain a motion to have all ordinances and resolutions read by title only. I've got a motion and a second. Any discussion on that motion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying yes.
Yes.
All opposed, no. Motion carries. That'll move us on to unfinished business. The first item of unfinished business is the third reading of ordinance 1139, establishing improvement district. Madam City Clerk, if you could please read that by title.
Be it enacted by the City Council of the City of Maumelle, County of Pulaski, State of Arkansas, an ordinance to be entitled Ordinance Number 1139, an ordinance to establish and lay off the City of Maumelle municipal property owners multi-purpose improvement district number 2024-01, Stone Canyon Project, and for other purposes.
Thank you, ma'am. Mr. City Attorney?
I did email you all this afternoon. I was contacted by the applicant's attorney, Ms. Farrell, who's coming to the podium. She asked to modify the purposes section of this, and I'll just give her the floor.
Thank you so much.
If
I'd
you
like to
please say your
introduce.
name for the
I
record.
was going to introduce myself. I'm Lisa Farrell, and I'm an attorney who is representing the owners of the property and the formation of the improvement district. I also happen to be a real estate developer, have developed Rockwater Village in North Little Rock. This is my first time to appear before the Maumelle City Council, so I appreciate the opportunity to be here. I have assisted clients with the formation of improvement districts in North Little Rock and in Little Rock, so I'm really pleased to have the opportunity to be here this evening. In preparation for this evening in review of the ordinance, I felt like the ordinance needed to be clarified, that the purpose of the improvement district was the construction of infrastructure. So I contacted Andrew Thornton. We were the folks that submitted the ordinance. I also want to compliment Mr. Thornton. He's been very helpful throughout this process. And so instead of finalizing the formation this evening, I would like to amend the proposed ordinance. And for other reasons, is it appropriate now for me, Mayor, to ask that the first and second reading be this evening, or is it not appropriate procedurally?
You're welcome to explain what you're asking for, and then at some point, the council will discuss and perhaps make a motion to amend the ordinance.
And so this proposed formation of the improvement district tonight would be its third reading, so it's been on the docket, shall we say, 2 times before. This would be the third. By amending it, it would require at least, I'm hoping, one more reading for December 2nd, and also have it be finalized so that would require waiving at least the second reading or doing the first and second reading this evening. The reason that I'm asking for that is, one, the formation of the district has been well publicized. 2, the lien holder, First Service Bank, has been notified, and actually representatives are here in the office, here in the chamber this evening. 3, bonds will not be issued until after the district is formed and lien holders are notified, and there's a whole public process under improvement districts to issue bonds. It will be about 90 days from the passage of the ordinance, unless the council chooses to waive the emergency clause or grant an emergency clause. And 4, I will be out of town on December 16th, which would be the third reading, on a long-awaited family trip. Today I watched the video of the Maumelle City Council to learn more about you all, and I saw many of you listed family as one of your primary thoughts on Maumelle, so I'm hoping that the fact that I will be out of town with family would assist that. Of course, we could get another attorney to represent, but as I am the attorney that is most familiar, my client would be best served by my attendance, and again, no stakeholders or lien holders would be harmed, as they have adequate notice as they are here in the chamber this evening.
Thank you, ma'am. Let me do a couple things. First of all, I probably should declare that the public hearing on this issue is open, and the mic, if anyone would like to come down and give their comments, is free to do so. So please just let us know if you'd like to do that. With that said, maybe the first thing we should talk about is the actual proposed amendment to Section 1. Y'all should have received a copy of that. So before we discuss waiving readings, it might be most logical to address the motion itself. But I'll open the floor to the council. Councilmember Gardner.
Thank you, Mayor. I was just going to ask the city attorney, what's the best way to have this read into the record so that we can make a motion on it?
I can read it. The proposed amendment, if the council moves, would be to substitute the following as Section 1, Ordinance 1139 and 1140. Section 1, that the owners of all of the real property described in the petition signed the petition, and there is hereby established a municipal property owners multipurpose improvement district, parentheses, the district, within the property for the purposes of constructing infrastructure, providing recreational facilities, and maintaining infrastructure and improvements. The district shall have the right to exercise the power of eminent domain in accordance with state law in order to carry out its purposes, and shall have all other powers afforded by the Municipal Property Owners Improvement District Law, Arkansas Code annotated 1494-101 et sec.
Okay, thank you, sir. I'll make a motion to amend ordinance 1139 as the city attorney just read.
We have a motion and a second to amend ordinance 1139 in the manner described by the city attorney. Is there any questions about that motion or discussion on that motion? Councilmember Mosley.
Yeah, are there anybody in the audience that would like to object to this thing, before we just race right on through here? I see some unfamiliar faces, so I was just wondering if somebody had something to say tonight on this. Also, who is the developer on this?
My client Joseph Park is here this evening.
Okay. Does he live here in Arkansas?
Yes.
Okay, all right, thank you. I'd understood that this project had been sold to somebody out of state, so that's why I was asking.
Oh.
Have any of the lots been sold in this?
No, sir.
Okay, because as I would understand it, we wouldn't be able to do this
That's correct.
if lots had already been sold.
Well, there is a way to do it, but you notify lot holders, et cetera, but no lots have been sold.
Okay,
I believe there was a miscommunication or misunderstanding or questions about it. We're just looking at the Phase 2 area, is that accurate, of Cypress Bend?
Yeah.
Okay. And so Phase 1 we had talked about at one point, and I think some of those lots had been sold. Is that accurate? I see some movement in the back.
yeah, we're talking Cypress Bend now, okay.
Oh, did I move?
Yeah.
Oh, I moved, I'm sorry.
The area
Cypress Bend.
covered by the
Sorry.
improvement district does not contain lots that have been sold, is that correct? That's correct. Yeah. It's a later phase.
That's on Cypress Bend,
Yeah.
okay.
Sorry, I didn't mean to confuse the matter. Stone Canyon has no lots sold, is that correct? That's correct. Okay.
Yeah.
Was there anything else, Mr. Moose?
No, I think that's it, thank you.
Councilmember Williams?
Well, I would just like to clear up in my mind. We're talking about, we amend it tonight, and then the first reading will be the next meeting, and we could possibly do the first and second readings the next meeting, right?
Well, so what the council typically does is if there's a motion to amend, we have the first reading immediately. That would be standard. And then standard would be at the next meeting, it would be on the second reading.
Okay.
The request is to have both the first and the second reading tonight, not just the first, and then it'll be on third reading at the
Okay.
next meeting.
Okay.
Councilmember Holt?
What, if I may ask, is the fundamental or the basic difference between the First Amendment and the amendment? What is the amendment actually changing
So
from the original?
I requested to amend to add the words constructing, for the purposes of constructing infrastructure. I want it to be made clear that that a bond issuance could cover the cost of building the infrastructure. And then the second portion says, and shall have all other powers afforded by the Municipal Property Owners Improvement District Law. Again, that just makes it clear that this improvement district has the authority granted by law to pay for the construction of improvements.
So once that is passed, if indeed it is, then you have the authority to do the changes that you want to without the city of Maumelle having any further comment.
Well, that's standard if in improvement district formation language, and so I wanted it added to the ordinance to be clear. But once the improvement district is formed, then it's, of course, a quasi-governmental agency subject to public review, et cetera.
So we are voting on the adoption of the amendment?
Yes,
Or
sir.
are we voting on permitting the amendment to be entered into the rewrite or the second portion
At
of
this
it?
point, the motion on the floor is merely to amend the ordinance, not approve it.
So we need to vote to amend it.
There's a motion and second on the floor to amend the ordinance in keeping with, or as read by the city attorney. So if the motion was approved, the ordinance would be amended, we would have the first reading and maybe a second, we would discuss that later, and then it would be, the ordinance would be adopted at a later meeting. So right now, it's, the vote is on the amending section 1.
What is the urgency for having the second amendment, the second reading on this evening?
Yes, ma'am?
So, a couple of reasons, please. One is, all the stakeholders are aware and informed about the improvement district. Again, the lien holder is here, the property owner is here, there are no other property owners, no lots have been sold. And so there would be no harm by doing both readings this evening. The second reason is that if they are not done this evening, then the next, the third reading will be on December 16th, and I will be out of town on a family vacation, and so would not be able to attend. We can, of course, find a substitute attorney, but as I'm the attorney that has worked with this, it's in the best interest for me to represent, if at all possible.
Traditionally, we are a little reluctant to have first, second readings on the same night. It says that everyone has signed the petition, so apparently there's no objection to it. And then the line where it says that the district shall have the right to exercise power of eminent domain, which is, why would there be the need for such specific control if everyone, if I'm understanding correctly, has basically agreed to it anyway?
That's a good question. That language is standard in the formation of improvement districts. There's no intention to do eminent domain in this. That's just the standard language included in Arkansas law governing improvement districts.
Okay.
But if, again, there's no intention to do eminent domain under this improvement district. As I'm sure you all are aware, eminent domain, even if it is done, is an extensive public process, legal process, lawsuits, etc. And so, again, there's no intention to do eminent domain. That's just standard Arkansas law governing improvement districts.
Okay. I have no objection, except that I'm not inclined to vote for the second reading this evening, but I appreciate your time. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. City Attorney?
Thank you, sir. I thought it'd be a good reminder to the council. State law gives the city councils pretty limited role in these improvement district petitions. We have two tasks at the time of the public hearing. Two tasks are to verify that all the property owners within the proposed district have signed the petition. So in this task, it's an LLC that owns all the property that's to be included in each of these improvement districts. And then to hear any possible objections by a mortgagee who holds at least 10% of real property. And if the city council determines that less than 100% of the property owners signed the petition, the city council must deny the formation. Or if the mortgagee appeared and objected at the public hearing, then the city council will be required to deny it. Otherwise, if neither of those has been satisfied, if you find that 100% of the owners have signed the petition and that no mortgagee is objecting at the time of the public hearing, it's the city council's responsibility. I would say their legal obligation is to grant the formation under state law. That's just my interpretation of how the General Assembly has written the statute.
Thank you, sir. We have additional lights on and requests. So just to make this a little bit easier, let's try and focus on the motion on the floor, which is to amend this ordinance with this. After that, we can discuss whether or not there will be a waiving of readings or whatnot. So Councilmember Mosley?
Yeah, I had a couple more questions I thought of here.
Sure.
Now, what'll happen is as you guys, as you bear the expenses and then put them into the special improvement district, then at some point when that's all finished, as far as the construction, the residents will be paying off bonds. And is that called special improvement taxes?
So that's a good question. It shows up on Pulaski County property taxes. Those, I'm only familiar with ones in Pulaski County. And so it shows up as a line item on property taxes, and it's designated Special Improvement District number X. And then each city assigns the number depending upon its numerical system.
Now, do you all have something that you give a prospective lot buyer or home buyer?
So
that would make them
the
aware that they're gonna
existence
be-
of improvement districts are disclosed in real estate contracts. And so that usually is covered in a real estate contract. And I know that my client has disclosed, and it's also public record, but frankly, I find it much better to disclose in the real estate contract, which is required in a disclosure language.
Okay. Yeah,
Nobody likes the surprise of finding,
No.
and it makes for unhappiness.
right. We've seen some problems way back in the past too.
I am familiar.
And so I'm fundamentally against special improvements.
understand.
And I know the city attorney was looking directly at me while he was giving those comments. But, so I will be a no vote, and I'm not in favor, I'm with Mr. Holt here, I'm not in favor more than an initial reading or whatever tonight. So I'll be voting against that too. So that's, I think that's all I've got. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
All right, thank you. The motion on the floor is to amend ordinance 1139 as read previously by the city attorney. All those in favor, please signify by saying yes.
Yes.
All opposed, no. Motion passes. Ordinance 1139 is amended. I would ask the city clerk to read it for the first time as amended.
Be it enacted by the City Council of the City of Maumelle, County of Pulaski, State of Arkansas, an ordinance to be entitled Ordinance Number 1139, an ordinance to establish and lay off the City of Maumelle Municipal Property Owners Multipurpose Improvement District Number 2024-01, Stone Canyon Project, and for other purposes.
All right, thank you. So we've had the first reading. The next thing I want to do really quickly is just address a couple of the things that we are supposed to be, that the council's supposed to be examining. One of those was whether or not the mortgage company had any objections. We have some representatives, I believe, of that company. I don't know that y'all have had any objections, but if I could get someone to just come down and, since y'all are here, explain whether you have any objections or not on the record, under oath, under penalty of perjury and death. All those parts, we're kidding. If you could please just state your name and who you're with, sir.
Tom Grumbles at First Service Bank.
Were you here because you had any objections that you?
No, y'all sent us a letter. We thought we'd better show up. Mr. Parks and his partner are customers of ours, and we do have a mortgage on the property. And I'm also pinch hitting for his loan officer because he's on vacation. But I understand that we have an understanding with how we're gonna satisfy our priority on the mortgage, and we conveyed that to his attorney this morning. So with those understandings, we have no objection, but we want to do what the will of the city of Maumelle wants to do as well.
Thank you, sir. With that, it is a public hearing. Normally, we ask for public comment cards, but I want to give a moment if anyone present does want to come down and voice an objection or support, you're free to do so. With that, let's move on to the question as to whether or not there's been a request to waive the second reading requirement and have that reading tonight. Open the floor on that. Councilmember Gardner.
I will make a motion to suspend the rules and have the second reading of ordinance 1139 this evening. Second.
We have a motion and a second to have the second reading tonight. If that motion passes at the next city council meeting, it'll be on third reading. Is there any discussion on that motion? Councilmember Mosley?
Yeah, on these things here, I really don't think we ought to be waiving, I really don't think we ought to be waiving the rules and doing that unless there's just a dire emergency, and I don't hear a dire emergency. So I'll definitely be a no on this. I hope everybody else will vote no.
Thank you, sir. Any additional comments? All right, we have a motion on the floor to have the second reading of ordinance 1139 tonight. All those in favor, please signify by saying yes.
Yes.
All opposed, no.
No.
Roll call vote, please.
Councilmember Mosley,
No.
Councilmember Mazzoni,
No.
Councilmember Gardner,
Yes.
Councilmember Williams,
Yes.
Councilmember Tierney,
Yes.
Councilmember Shin,
Yes.
Councilmember Holt.
No.
Okay, the motion fails. This is one of those motions under state law that requires a 2/3 vote, and we didn't get the 2/3. So this will be on second reading at the next city council meeting. Mr. City Attorney?
I'd ask that you had previously passed a resolution setting tonight as the public hearing. I just asked for an oral motion to continue the public hearing, to reset it for Monday, December the 16th, 2024, at 6 p.m. in the council chambers.
So moved. Second.
I've got a motion and a second on that. The motion is to move to continue the public hearing to the second council meeting in December. Is there any discussion on that motion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying yes.
Yes.
All opposed, no. Motion carries. The floor is still open for discussion on ordinance 1139. Seeing none, this will be on second reading at the next city council meeting. I'll close the public hearing on ordinance 1139 for the time being, or suspend it. Are we continuing it or closing it? Same thing? Okay. Madam City Clerk, if you could please read ordinance 1140, establishing an improvement district 2024-02.
Be it enacted by the City Council of the City of Maumelle, County of Pulaski, State of Arkansas, an ordinance to be entitled Ordinance Number 1140, an ordinance to establish and lay off the City of Maumelle Municipal Property Owners Multi-Improvement District Number 2024-02, Cypress Bend Project, and for other purposes.
Mr. City Attorney?
Since we've had, it's the same request coming with this. The request from the applicant's attorney is to amend Section 1 of this proposed ordinance as follows. Section 1 to read that the owners of all the real property described in the petition, signed the petition, and there is hereby established a municipal property owner's multipurpose improvement district, parentheses, the district, within the property for the purposes of constructing infrastructure, providing recreational facilities, and maintaining infrastructure and improvements. The district shall have the right to exercise the power of eminent domain in accordance with state law in order to carry out its purposes, and shall have all other powers afforded by the Municipal Property Owners Improvement District Law, Arkansas Code annotated 1494-101 et sec.
I will make the motion to amend ordinance 1140 as the city attorney has just read. Second.
I've got a motion and a second to amend ordinance 1140. Is there any discussion on that? Seeing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying yes.
Yes.
All opposed, no.
No.
Motion carries. Madam City Clerk, if you could please read ordinance 1140 for the first time again,
As amended.
as amended.
Be it enacted by the City Council of the City of Maumelle, County of Pulaski, State of Arkansas, an ordinance to be entitled Ordinance Number 1140, an ordinance to establish and lay off the City of Maumelle's municipal property owners multipurpose improvement district number 2024-02, Cypress Bend project, and for other purposes.
Thank you, ma'am. At this time, I'd like to go ahead and open the public hearing on ordinance 1140. We are, if anyone has any comments or objections, please feel free to come on down. Do we have the same mortgage? Same company? If I can ask you all to come on down again, if you wouldn't mind. You just never know how the minutes might be copied and pasted at a different time. If you could please state your name and relation to this matter.
I'm Tom Grumbles with First Service Bank, and we do have a mortgage on this property. Mr. Park and his partner are customers of ours. We have worked out an arrangement with them and their attorney where we will continue to have first position, in essence, ahead of the improvement district. And so we support that, but at the same time, we will honor what the city of Maumelle wants to do.
Thank you, sir. Let me ask this, the mortgage company doesn't have to be here. So if anything changes, please come back to the public hearing and you're free to object. If not, you're free to watch the YouTube stream in your pajamas at the house. Nothing more riveting on a Monday evening than that.
Well, we might come back, we might not. We always like to come back and see our big flag flying and
It looks
see
great.
our buildings coming along. Thank you.
Looks great, thank you. Councilmember Mosley?
Yeah, are we in discussion now?
Yes, sir, I'll open the floor for discussion.
Okay. There's two phases in this Cypress Bend, is that correct? Was the first phase, was there a special improvement district for that?
Not that I'm aware of, no.
Why would you not do one for the first phase and then do one for the second phase? Can I ask that question?
So I can certainly ask Mr. Park, but generally, improvement districts have seen an uptick because of the increase in the cost of construction over the recent term and the interest rates. And it is very difficult to do development without improvement districts at this time.
Okay. And I just want to ask you again, have any of the lots been sold in this phase 2 that's going to have the special improvement district?
No, sir.
Okay. That's all I've got, I think.
All right, if there's nothing further under the advice of the city attorney,
Mayor,
yes,
I think we've got somebody who wanted to talk.
Thank you, man. Appreciate it. John Jones, 4 Hogan Drive, Maumelle, Arkansas. Really, the only thing I read a little bit on this with these incorporated district, but Cypress Bend, the second edition, is very small lots and smaller square footage. This would, obviously, the improvement district does get the city improvements, the city standards, and everything that we want when they come in. A lot more, but there's a lot of statutes related to getting paid because you get it at your taxes and you pay that. if they do not pay their taxes. 3 years, obviously eminent domain or to have a lien against your property. Few questions I would have on this is we're passing this on to the homeowners in these 1,000 square foot homes. So we need to take this into account when we approve these type of things, because it's great for the bank, great for the developer, because they get part of their improvement taken care of. It's great for the city because they have the appropriate standard curbing and things of that nature for coming in. So one thing that I definitely would want to bring up, that's what compelled me to come up here tonight, especially in this particular subdivision with 1,000 square foot homes, is we are going to be putting a burden on the affordable housing in this city. Also, one reason to approve for the smaller lots and smaller square footage, which was a variance, which had to be approved by you guys, is for affordable housing. That's the reason we allowed, you guys as a city allowed it to be in place. So, personally, I don't have a dog in the fight, but one thing I want to definitely bring to you guys' attention is what we're going to be doing to the homeowners for that purpose. One thing that I'd like to bring up, these improvement districts can be dismissed later by the board, which I'm assuming it's been written. There's 3 board members, correct? Yes, ma'am. So those people decide when to stop inflicting these taxes on folks. Is that correct? Am I correct?
So there's a whole process for the issuance of bonds.
Yes.
There's a whole public hearing process and notice, and it's very extensive.
Does it have a date when the homeowners in this subdivision doesn't have to pay anymore?
When there's a bond runs a certain amount of time.
So many years, that type of thing?
And then bonds can only be used for very limited things that are under the Arkansas statute.
And do you have the approximate cost it would be for these smaller homes?
The idea is that it would be no more than, I believe this one is $50 a month.
$50 a month, so, $600 a year. So I just wanted to bring this to the attention of the city council. $600 a year is not very extensive to get things in standards, but I wanted to bring that up and make sure that we know as a city what we're putting on the future citizens of this city. So thank you, ma'am. Appreciate it. Thank you for your time, guys.
Thank you. I just wanted to comment with that. There's times that the city council sits in a policy-making position. That is where we're examining and setting policies, and there's times the council sits as an administrative function, which is very much like a judge. And so as the city attorney explained, I think everything that was said by you and some of the complaints or some of the concerns from Mr. Mosley are all accurate. It's also important to know what the role that the council plays in doing that. I often hear, I sometimes hear about activist judges that take the law and say, well, they don't like that law, so they're going to do something different than that. As the city attorney was explaining, the purpose of the council is twofold. One, to make sure that the property owners have been verified and that that we've got that process, and then one from the mortgage holder there. So, and we're not actually voting on that tonight, but it's just important to note, because sometimes we move into a policy decision where we get to decide whether we want to build a playground, and then sometimes we're in planning and zoning where you're applying rules, and this is one of those times that the law has said what you're supposed to be looking at when making that decision. That said, Councilmember Mosley?
I just wanted to say Mr. Jones said all that very well, better than I did. But that is my concern, is that people that buy these houses, and it seems like it's always the smaller houses that in the developments that we have this. And those folks are probably less likely to really understand what's happening there. And so It's just kind of a buyer beware thing, and I lived here long enough to have seen this happen back in the 80s and the 90s where there was just a real mess over those special improvement districts. So, again, I'm not in favor of this stuff, so thank you.
Thank you, sir. At this time, I'd entertain a motion to continue the public hearing to Monday, December 16th at 6 p.m. in the council chambers. I've got a motion. Did I hear a second? Second. Motion and second. All those in favor, please signify by saying yes. Yes. All opposed, no. Motion carries. Floor is still open for discussion on ordinance 1140.
Mr. Mayor, if I may make just a
Yes, ma'am.
few comments. I agree both as an attorney and as a developer the need to be very careful about bond issuances. Although I was not yet active when the bad things happened, I think everyone who is responsible and is aware of those concerns. Improvement districts actually aid in affordable housing because the cost of development is so great right now in particular, and improvement districts are another way to be able to develop over the longer term. I also want to be clear that the bond issuance process is a very public process, very public notification, notifications to ownership. I mean, there's all kinds of safeguards in place. There is a right to object by property owners as to if a bond is going to be issued. There are very stringent limits as to what bond funds could be spent on. It's public infrastructure. And I agree very much that it needs to be disclosed to home buyers. Also, responsible developers, as I believe Mr. Park to be, take into consideration the target price and target homeowner and income of that homeowner when making this assessment. And just to be clear, an assessment of this size will come nowhere near close to covering the total cost of improvements. I just want to be very, very, very clear. It assists, but it by no means does it cover all the cost of improvements.
Thank you, ma'am.
Oh, and I'm sorry, one other thing. I will return on December 2nd, and if you have any questions between now and then that you think of, I would appreciate it if you would ask me those on December 2nd, so that the attorney that I asked to sub for me while I'm with my family has it pretty much all questions answered. I appreciate you.
You sound like I was when I was city attorney. I said, please ask me the questions in advance so that I can get them ready. In this case, you want to make sure that the next person is prepared. Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you.
You didn't know you could assist on that? Yeah, I didn't insist. It was just a pretty please. And then stuff still pops up. But go ahead and close or suspend the public hearing on the ordinance 1140. That brings us to new business. The first item of new business is a planning commission appointment. We have one applicant this time, so it makes it a little bit, less controversial. Lauren Rose, if you could please come on down. The council has received a copy of your resume that was included in the council packet, but if you'd like to take a moment and just introduce yourself.
Not a problem. Good evening, everyone. Like the mayor said, my name is Lauren Rose. I've been a citizen of Maumelle for about a year, but I've solidified my position as one. I just recently purchased a home that I closed on last month. So because of that, I figured why not get involved in a community? And I was perusing Facebook, as many of us do, and saw that this popped up. So this was a perfect opportunity for me to get involved. I have 3 children. My oldest is in his first year of high school, so I have no intention on leaving anytime soon. So I would like to grow, with my family and with the community as well.
Thank you. I'll go ahead and open the floor if there's any hot seat questions. Councilmember Mosley?
Yeah, I read your resume and I had a hard time understanding what you do. And I finally decided by the time I got through that you're a internal compliance auditor.
Almost. I'm a quality assurance manager by profession. So essentially, yes, I do maintain compliance of the compounding pharmacy in which I'm employed, and that is SCA Pharma, and that's located in Little Rock.
Okay, so you're working for the pharma business at this point?
Yes,
They're-
sir.
And they're in the pharmaceutical industry?
Mm-hmm.
So I would guess there are some regulations on that, and you have to kind of keep them in line, is that correct?
Yes, sir.
All right. Yeah, if you wouldn't mind, just give me a quick example of what you do day to day.
Like you said, we are heavily regulated with FDA being our top one that we do have to adhere to their standards and regulations. So we want to ensure that our procedures adhere to that, whether it be something that is already established or something that may have come down a pipeline within the last week. So I maintain the standardization of our SOPs, or standard operating procedures, and ensure that they adhere to not only what the FDA is seeking, but making sure they are efficient with our business as well.
Okay. Sounds like you're used to a lot of details and a lot of things that are maybe hard to understand and read and all that stuff. So
yes, sir.
That would be helpful in being on the planning commission, because that is highly detailed. And it takes a while to understand it.
Understood, and it's my job to read all that detail and bring it to a point where everybody can understand it. That is a necessary challenge, but it helps one grow.
Okay. I think that's all I've got. Thank you.
Thank you. Any additional questions? Ms. Rose, you may have a seat and await the ballot results here.
Yes, sir. Thank you so
y'all
much.
have received a copy of the ballot. Please indicate your vote and print your name legibly so that we can see it. Before the meeting popped up, I asked John if he was a little bit jealous that she didn't have an opponent. I think he was here once or twice, or once or twice. It is unanimous. Ms. Rose, I'm sure it looks like you were already welcomed into the fold upon arrival here, and I'm sure you'll be hearing from Mr. Grummer soon if you haven't, maybe even before you get out of the building. But thank you for agreeing to serve in this capacity. With that, we'll move on to Resolution 2024-42, authorizing cash loan from the general fund to the sanitation fund. Madam City Clerk, if you please read that by title only.
A resolution authorizing the mayor or the mayor's designee to loan cash from the general fund to the sanitation fund, and authorizing the mayor or the mayor's designee to reimburse the general fund after the sanitation rate increase.
Thank you. So we discussed this a little bit during the financial statement review. The purpose is just to loan money from the general fund to the sanitation fund, and then repay that with the additional funds we'll be receiving from the rate increase. Open the floor for discussion. Councilmember Gardner.
Thank you, sir. Just one for the city attorney. One of the very first things I learned at the Municipal League when I was first elected, I went to some of the training sessions in January. One of the first things he said was, when money goes to the street fund or the sanitation fund, it cannot come back unless, I presume, it is a loan. So I just want to make sure that this is set up in a different way. I understand what we're doing here, but I think some people might. I just want to make sure that when we transfer it over directly, like if it's just a gift, that gift can never come back. But the loan puts some framework around that. where we now can pay it back from general fund?
Yes, sir. These are called interfund loans, and we found a lot of discussion both in the audits that were published on the Leg Audit website. We found prior discussion in our own CAFR reports, and we found, spoke to the city attorney over in Fayetteville, and he gave me an example resolution that they've done for the same purpose.
Okay. Very good. Thank you.
Yes, sir.
At this time, I'd entertain a motion to adopt Resolution 2024-42.
Second.
Got a motion and second. Councilmember Mosley?
Yeah, I was just disappointed, and I know the mayor probably is too, that we kind of had a surprise that there's only $20,000 of cash in that sanitation fund. I'm just disappointed in how that played out. So that's it. And that was a good question, Mr. Gardner. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Any additional discussion on the motion to adopt Resolution 2024-42? Seeing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying yes.
Yes.
All opposed, no. Motion carries. That concludes new business. We'll move on to mayor's comments. First of all, just a little bit of good news, hopefully good news. Gateway Park bid openings are on Thursday, so we should know later this week whether or not we have a project, whether or not we have a project or not. That's assuming bids all come in the area that we anticipate them and have budget for. But we'll find out more about that. Just to note, there will be a special election to fill Ward 1. So Ward 1, residents that live in Ward 1, the special election for the runoff will be on December 3rd, and early voting starts on November 26th. So anybody who ever says one vote does not matter, or your vote does not matter, clearly did not live in Ward 1 this go-around. So get out there and vote if you live in Ward 1. At the last budget meeting, there was a few salary proposals that were addressed. The council asked me to come back with some recommendations. Before I get to that, we made a few of the different changes that we have been talking about and that are built into the numbers here. This is not the full budget. This is just the summary pages so that you could see where they were. The gist of this included the custodians to a labor position at both City Hall and the police department, and moving that person at the police from part-time to full-time, and a few other very minor things. What is not built into this is any of the salary increases. Typically what happens is the different departments submit their personnel requests. We kind of table those and look at the overall condition of the budget, and then come back for, and then it's built into the budget, and we've sort of tried to standardize some of the requests, because the requests can come from the department heads that can say, I want my person to have this position to have X thousand dollars more, and the other department uses a different method. So when we run it through, sort of through my office and HR, and we look to standardize and do comparisons to make sure there aren't things out of whack, and then we build those into the budget or have that there. We didn't do that this go around just because of the condition, and so we're still wanting to do that. I've got a few positions that we're trying to look to see how it fits into the entity as a whole, how it compares to the comparable jobs and the like. But I don't have that proposal here. I can certainly have that to y'all at the next council meeting, or preferably something before the council meeting, so that when we come in, you guys have already kind of seen what those recommendations are. But I did want to give you just the last summary pages that have everything, except there was a few positions that y'all asked me to come back with recommendations on. At this time, one of the benefits of being so early in the budget process is we do have plenty of time. with the council's blessing, I can have something to you at or before the December 2nd meeting. We can discuss that here and then take that recommendation and incorporate it into the budget and then have the full budget to y'all and ready to vote on at the December 16th council meeting. But I am open to ideas. With that, we'll move on to council member comments. Councilmember Mosley.
Yeah, I got a text message and then spoke with Mr. Rayburn for a minute, of our Parks and Recreation Department. He basically contacted me to tell me that Ms. Timmons had apparently been planning to come tonight to go ahead and I guess bring a check for the $45,000 it's approximately that's still left in the account that Mr. Rayburn has been managing. It's actually a Timmons Art Foundation account. And I think we talked about this a couple of meetings, and we talked about it quite a bit last meeting. So I won't go into any details, but I am disappointed that she did not come tonight. The excuse is that she had heard that a lot of council members would be absent, and for some reason she did not want to come with council members absent. I don't know how it makes any difference, but that was the reason she gave. So I would again say that this is something that needs to be flanged up here for appearance's sake, if nothing else, because it appears that there's some foot dragging on this, and it needs to be resolved because there's some the council, not the council, but the committee that was in charge of doing all this. It's really it's their job to see that all the loose ends have been tied up, and this is a major item that hadn't been tied up. It's not my job to do this, and I would recommend that the council members that are on this committee, I guess it's Mr. Gardner, Ms. Grunwald, are you on it, Ms. Williams? Not anymore. Anybody else here? But I would recommend that gets resolved, and I'd like to see it resolved before the next council meeting. It just, for appearances, it's beginning to look like, I didn't talk about this at the last meeting, but the city is actually out this amount of money because the money that was at the Timmons Art Foundation should have been spent first. That was the whole idea that was the concept of this whole thing. And that the city came in and topped it off to make sure that this thing got completed. So when that money does come in, it should be, basically it's a reimbursement to the city for the amount of money that they had to pay that they shouldn't have had to pay. So I would strongly urge folks, the mayor, whoever else is involved to get this resolved as soon as possible.
Thank you. Any additional council member comments? Yeah. Councilmember Gardner?
Thank you, Mayor. I just think it's important for the record to reflect that the city is not owed any refund from the Timmons Foundation. Those were dollars that were raised for a public park, and there are continual discussions about additional amenities that will be offered to the city for the use of that park. So there are additional expenses that will be purchased for this park. It's not something that will be resolved by the next council meeting because various things take time if we want to do certain improvements. So, but those funds were never designed to reimburse taxpayers because we budgeted for those parks in a previous year's budget. So, but I just wanted to put that out there. Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you, sir. Councilmember Mosley? Yeah,
once again on that subject, it was presented to the donors, and there's people in the audience that even donated to this park, the playground and the splash pad. And the understanding is that, from what I remember, was that the funds that were donated were supposed to go to the construction of these two facilities, not necessarily enhancements or additional things that come down the pike or to be in a fund for something else. So the way this can be applied, it should have been, they should have been spent from that account already. It should have been part of it, and it wasn't. And so that the way to rectify this is to transfer this money to the city, who will then apply it to the construction, and it will back off what the city has had to pay. And so right now, the city, like I said, is out that amount of money. So it needs, this whole process needs to be completed and in line with the way it was presented to begin with.
Thank you, sir. So if I could comment on that, first of all, this is a weird scenario because I personally agree with the conclusion that, in my opinion, that money should come back to the city. That said, I basically disagree with all the rationale. I don't know that it was presented. I feel as though, just for the record, or if someone's watching on YouTube and doesn't know the backstory, there's been no agreement that is being violated. There's no ethics laws, rules, implied anything that is there. And correct me if I'm wrong, I believe what you're saying when you're saying the way things should be, and you're talking about your opinion on that, which in this case I happen to agree with, but the way you say it, it sounds to me like it carries undertones of impropriety or corruption or untoward, model citizenly behavior, if that's a phrase, which I don't think any of that is there. My position has been that I think that money should come to the city. We budgeted for a certain amount of donations there at the end, and that helps offset that money because this is a park. The reality is that some of these projects can go on for a while, in that you do the big construction and then you start filling in. Some of the equipment improvements that are out there now were built because there was extra money that the nonprofit had raised to improve and construct the playgrounds. So while I agree with you, I have said the entire time I'm fully confident that that money will be either returned or not returned, but donated to the city or spent on the construction of amenities at that park. So just my take on what you're saying. Ultimately, we have the same conclusion, and that at least both you and I personally believe that that money should come back to or should come for the first time to the city. So you're welcome to chime in. Councilmember Mosley.
Yeah, I've got a couple more items. We had talked about possibly modifying some of the traffic lights to have a left turn on yellow at several intersections there on Maumelle Boulevard, and I was wondering if there's a status on that. Have we had a chance to look into that?
I do not have one, and I don't know if Mr. Hogan is still present or he left. I can have something for you at the next council meeting.
Okay, thank you.
Oh, yes.
One other thing here is I drove by the project over there on, I guess we call it Commerce Drive, and is it Maumelle Village or whatever it is that is supposedly being built over there, and I've gone by there two or three times in the last couple of months, and I have not seen any progress on the building. And I was wondering if Mr. Grummer had any update on that, if they're going to proceed on this project or not.
Mr. Grummer?
Scott Grummer, Director of Planning and Permits. So are you speaking of the residential buildings that are being built or what?
Right.
So they started, but there were delays, and there still are with Entergy finishing with some transformers that have delayed some of the construction on that site. And they told me that the delays also happened because of the hurricane. They've pretty much gotten all of their construction sites behind on getting transformers and different types of connections done. So I actually sent emails out to the developer 2 weeks ago for an update, and they were Entergy's involved, so I know that they're actively trying to get all that set up so they can move forward on the construction. But some of the delays are just developer as well. So I don't.
Okay, or you feel like it's gonna eventually get built?
I hope so. Between that and a couple other developments around the city, I think there's just been delays, and we can't. There's.
Okay, again, I'm worried that we're violating any ordinances on trees and that sort of thing too. So.
Well,
And so please watch that, and if we are, please do something.
Okay.
So, thank you.
Mhm.
That's all I've got.
Thank you, sir. Any additional council member comments? City attorney comments? City clerk comments?
Yes, I just want to briefly express my personal condolences and also the city's condolences. Mike Watson, our previous mayor, recently lost his mother, Ada Watson, who was a very instrumental in the community, working with, counting on each other and our Center on the Lake. So I just wanted to formally express our condolences as a body.
Thank you. If there is nothing further, I'd accept the motion to adjourn.
Mr. Mayor, I make a motion to adjourn the city council meeting of November the 18th, 2024.
I've got a motion and a second. Is there any discussion on that motion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying yes. Yes. All opposed?